Alright, today I'm going to be trying to do a hack on a Nikon Coolpix L20 10 megapixel camera, and to get started you need to remove the screws on the perimeter of the camera under the AV out port over here. Lift that up and rotate it upwards, and there's one screw up in there that we need to remove, one on the bottom. There's three across the bottom that need to be taken out, and one on this other side. So I'm going to go ahead and get those out, and then we'll come back and try to get the camera open. So now that I've got the screws out, I'm going to start trying to separate the halves. Get in here at the bottom and pull that out, and work your back cover off. And there's a screw over here on this corner that we need to take out. So I'm going to get that out of there. Now let's see if we can get our front off. Start at the bottom and see if we can get that worked out. There's some clips maybe on the sides too that you have to kind of work loose. And up here at the top. This camera is not that easy to get apart, or at least not that I've found. See. Okay, have to lift up on that top trim piece to give it some relief to come across the top up here. Alright, so now we've got the front and back covers off, and I'm not sure yet where I'm going to route my wires out of the camera. It's the first time I've had one open. So, alright, now that I've got my front and back covers off of the camera, what I'm going to do is go ahead and remove the LCD screen. So just work that loose, top left corner, and rotate it over. Be careful, you don't want to tear up your ribbon. And then we need to remove the LCD bracket. There's 4 screws that hold it on. Just take those out. The reason I'm going to remove the LCD screen and bracket is because I'm going to route my wires out the bottom of the camera, and this will allow me to have my wires coming down the back side of the main board. Okay, once you got that bracket off, rotate the LCD screen back over and lift up the white latch and easy ribbon out. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and show you the external locations on this camera. You'll see some little black tape right here. Just lift that up, and that covers your power button, shutter button, and the other functions up top. We'll go ahead and we can peel this back. Now you got to be really careful because you do need to put this back in place. So just gently ease that up. Okay. And you could just take it back to just past your power button here, and then just kind of fold it over in place or tape it down. If you go too far back with it, you'll expose some contacts that's for the flash capacitor, and so you don't want to do that. You know, if you do, you can discharge that capacitor right there. You'll see the locations, and I'll peel this back just to show it to you. Just past this other switch here. I can get this tape up. But you'll see the flash capacitor locations right here. The two bare copper areas with a lightning bolt symbol and negative and positive markings. You can discharge your flash capacitor right there and make it a lot easier to be handling the camera, so you may want to go ahead and do that anyway. But for your externals on the camera, this solder lug right here is going to be for your battery positive, and the solder lug here to the left is battery negative. Okay. For the power button up top, which is this button here, you need the bottom left for your power common and the top left for power. Okay. Now on your shutter button, which is here, you're going to need 3 wires for it. On the top left, on this left hand side, the top solder location is going to be shutter, and the one below that is going to be for focus. Alright, and then on the other side of the switch, the bottom right is going to be for shutter common. Alright, and on all of these points, the easiest way to get your wires to stick is to pre-tend these locations. Put just a small amount of soldering flux at these spots, and get just a little bit of solder on your hot iron tip and touch it to those locations and make you a little bitty solder pad there, and then pre-tend your wires. Keep the exposed section of your wire very, very short, and just solder it to these locations that I showed you, and that'll help you get your wires to stick really good. Alright, and then once I get my wire soldered on, I'm going to bring them off the back of the board here, and probably going to route them out the tripod mounting area. I'll more than likely, I'm just going to cut this square area off and then snip out some of this plastic here to allow my wires to get over into this open area. But you want to be really careful in this area when you're doing that, so you don't cut into this ribbon right here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get the camera hacked, and once I do, I'll come back and show you how I've routed my wires and what I did here to get the wires to come out the bottom. Well, one thing that I forgot to mention was I thought that if I could find some locations to solder wires to along this row of header locations right here, that the hack would be simpler than trying to solder to the buttons up top. And I found location for the power and power common, but the shutter button switch has no corresponding pins down here. I'll tell you where the locations are for the power switch on the row of pins starting to the far right. Count 4 over 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one would be for power common. And then right in the middle here, you'll notice 2 pins that are separate from these 8 and the 4 that are over here. The 2 that are in this area right in the middle, the very first one is going to be for power. Alright, so if you wanted to solder your power wires there, you could. Alright, I just want to show you what I've got so far. I've got my camera hacked, or got all the hacked wires on it. And the one thing that I did put my power and power common wires on that header location up here. Alright, and to route my wires out, what I did is cleared out a pretty significant area here at the tripod mounting hole. See if I can pull those wires up where you can see that. Wanted to ensure that I had plenty of area there to exit my wires, and I cut off that little square base that was over that tripod mounting hole. Alright, not a lot of options as to where you can run the wires out of the camera. So I mean, you could run them all across over this way and then bring them out if you wanted to, but I've just tried to bring mine down right along this area. But you have to be pay particular attention to you know, where that LCD ribbon's going to have to attach back in there. You don't want to get wires too close to there that you can't get the ribbon back in. And also in locations like right up here at the top and at the bottom where the LCD bracket is going to screw back on. When you put that on, make sure that those little tabs that the screws go through aren't going to pinch and or cut your wires. So anyway, I just wanted to show you what I've got so far. I'm gonna, oh, and where you route your positive external battery wire, you got to be careful too that you don't get it where it's going to interfere with these buttons up top. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get the camera back together, and then we'll come back and check the hack on it.